The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read. Your source for news, politics, sports, and all things trending. Here's your host, Marcus Gentry.
The charges themselves,
4 counts of involuntary manslaughter.
nearly unprecedented.
How unusual is it for parents to be charged for their child's school shooting?
I'll say this is highly unusual. I would basically say that it does not happen.
Welcome to the Daily Read, and I am your host, Marcus Gentry. Another year, another day, another school shooting. I'm just, it amazes me how this stuff can continue to happen, and it's more common than you think. This school shooting right here is something different though. The prosecution is going after the parents now. And later on in the show, I'm going to tell you why it's a good thing, but we as minorities need to watch out for this. Okay? Like I say, I'm gonna explain all of this to you because I want you to have an understanding of how this is going to turn out. It's been a long-standing policy in this country. Whatever laws that make sense right now, 20 years from now, they're going to twist it in a way that it affects us minorities more than it affects whites. We have to be careful on certain things, people. And I know it sounds like I'm advocating against them charging the parents. I'm not. I want them to be charged. They're irresponsible parents. What I'm saying is something different. We have to be careful about how this is playing out. We need to pay attention. And some of you minority parents out there who might not think you're bad parents, you need to tighten up on your parenting skills. Or you might be next. All of that's going to be explained throughout the show. But there's certain things there's a couple of things I want to get to before we get into that. Alright. For those of you who are listening to me on iHeartRadio, Spotify, that can't see me because you're not on YouTube, you can always go to YouTube at Money Making Biz and check out my channel. I have a lot of things on there. I have comedy. I have a gaming channel actually. I just talked about this last week on how there are certain things that we like to do that others don't, and they try to downgrade you or make you feel bad because you like to do certain things that they don't. My thing is, do what you do and enjoy yourself. And maybe they'll catch on and learn to enjoy themselves instead of worrying about what you do. And now we're finna go into my very first of this year. We had COVID and we had a lot of things going on with COVID. But this is the very first advertiser that has actually come into the show, okay? I'm finna get into their marketing thing. They're called freight broker. Okay, it says you could become a freight broker or a freight agent in 30 days or less. Learn from a real freight broker who started with no experience and has done over 200 million in sales. Huge growth opportunity in a $70 billion global industry. Now, freight brokers are going to teach you basically how to get your own jobs if you're a truck driver. This is for my truck drivers out there, wherever you are, if you're a truck driver out there, if you're interested in becoming your own freight broker and getting your own authority, these are the people. Okay, these are the people you need to go to. I'm going to leave a link in the description and below this video, and where you can click the link and go straight to them, and they'll tell you everything you need to get you started. Okay, now let's get back into the show. After I got my advertisers out the way, I want to also talk about how, where is it at? I've had the end of the year statistics come out. Okay, the end of the year statistics says my viewership has went up 16%. It's a slow crawl, people. So I need you to tell a friend and a friend to tell a friend, check me out. You know, I'm not like the greats. I'm not like the TYTs and you know, the Young Turks. I love the Young Turks. I'm not like the Sam Sneeders and all of these guys, the Pharaohs. I love Pharaoh, man. He's funny. I love that guy. But my show is catching on. I'm self-owned. I have a legitimate business here. This is a legitimate business, and I'm just one of the many voices out here, man, trying to show you the truth of the horror that's going on right in front of us, but they're masking it. You know, a lot of other people are on here doing it too. They have more professional outfits than I have, and it's okay. You know, there's room in this pond for everybody. But our viewership has went up 16%. More and more countries, not just America, but Canada and a few countries in Africa have picked up my show. So for all of my foreigners who watch my show, I want to thank you. You know, I want to thank you, you know, for watching my show and giving me your support. You know, if you want to send me something, you know, I don't ask for nothing, but if you just want to send a donation to the show, anything I get through Cash App donations goes back into my company. Okay? I just want y'all to know that I work for a living. I don't need to I'm not a grifter. I don't need to take matter of fact, I don't even sit here and try to sell you nothing usually. You know, you go back on all my shows, you don't never see me trying to sell you nothing, because I'm not out here grifting. I'm not out here begging for money. If you just want to donate to me, it'll go back into my show. It'll upgrade my equipment. It'll help me buy cameras for when I go outside my home studio here. I go outside and start interviewing people. I can have on-site Wi-Fi, better cameras, and things like that. So if you just want to donate to the show, you can. Okay, so let's get back into the show and why I feel like we as minorities in America need to understand that yes, this is a good thing that they're holding the parents of this young shooter accountable by charging them too. But like I said, America has a race problem when it comes to law enforcement. They always try to twist laws to make the outcome more devastating to the minority community. Over time, it happens. Let me explain what I'm talking about. The gun law that came out back in the 90's, that everybody's mad that's in the black community about Joe Biden signing it. That law at the time, everybody loved it. Chew on that for a minute. I want y'all to think about that, because I was on the streets then. I remember the case where the white lady and her child drove down a street that she wasn't supposed to be there. The gangs that ran that street shot at her car with I think it was an AK-47, killed her and her daughter. That's when Hillary Clinton came out and said, these guys are animals. They need to be locked up. 20 years later, people mistook what she said and said that Hillary Clinton called black people animals. She didn't say that. She didn't say black people were animals. She said those guys that killed that lady because she went down the wrong street. Her and her daughter are animals and need to be locked up. Bill Clinton turned around and signed a law that says if you selling drugs and you have guns, it enhances your sentencing. That's when all of these gun laws started coming out. And back then, everybody loved it, even blacks. Understand this, people. Things that happen expediently, as of right now, 20 years from now, they're going to turn this as something against minorities. I'm not saying that they shouldn't lock these people up, but I want you people to always have a memory of this, because later on, what they're going to start trying to do is all of your kids that's running out here gang banging and shooting, eventually they're going to start coming out to black parents. Eventually they're going to start saying, you mean to tell me your son wearing all of this red, all of this blue, throwing up gang signs, and you didn't know? He's around here terrorizing people? Understand how this works, people. Let's get into the first video, because this guy's a piece of crap, and I guarantee you these people were right wingers, Donald Trump supporters.
And
Unusual because prosecutors will have to prove gross negligence, that the parents knew something bad was going to occur.
What the prosecutor is saying is that given what you knew, it was so reckless, so grossly negligent to allow a child, and particularly this child with this child's problems, to have access to a firearm, that even if you never intended the outcome or participated in the shooting, you too, parents, are responsible.
Now, you see how I just painted that picture for you people. Now, you foreigners out there that listen to my show, I don't know if y'all remembered back when Clinton signed the new gun law and took into effect. But for you foreigners out there who don't live in America, who like my show and listen to my show, you got to understand, I'm trying to teach my people here in this country how we still have an element of bigotry in this country that has infiltrated our judicial system. It hasn't infiltrated. It's always been there, because the police were started as slave catchers. Okay, that's how the police actually got its start, as being slave catchers, escaped slaves. So it's always had its roots in bigotry. Now they done added a black people element to it, where you got black officers now. But it hasn't changed nothing, because half of them are cowards. They're not standing up and saying, look, I know these white men are bigots. They need to stop it. They're riding along with it. So understand, 20 years from now, this is going to backfire on us. On us. I'm almost willing to guarantee it. Let's get into the next clip.
It's rare, but charges like these have been filed before. In Indiana, a mother was put on probation after her son took her gun to school, threatening to kill others. And in Michigan, Jamel James was sentenced to at least 2 years in prison after a 6-year-old took his gun to school, killing another 6-year-old. The parents say they'll fight the charges, but it's not just them under scrutiny.
you have to go back to the fact that you had school officials who had the same knowledge base that the parents did, and they allowed this young man to go back into school.
They allowed him to go back after seeing drawings of him shooting people. After a teacher witnessed him trying to look for bullets online. After witnessing all of this, they allowed him to go back to class. You see, and this is for my foreigners out there that listen to this. This is what I mean when I say white supremacy has infiltrated every element of our society. Because if it was a black student that would have showed this level of disrespect, they would have suspended him. They would have called him a threat. They'd have called his mother off of work and told her, look, you got to come pick up your son immediately. I know, because I was a black kid in public schools. It's not like I was born yesterday and just popped out as an adult. I was a black kid in public schools. I know how this works. White kids can get into a fight and get in-school suspension. They still coming to school. Black kids get into a fight, they get out-of-school suspension. Out-of-school suspension is different from in-school suspension, because in-school suspension allows your parents to still go to work and keep sending you to school. Out-school suspension means your parents gotta be at home with you. They can't leave you in the house by themselves. So now they gotta take off work. It makes it harder on your family. There's a difference. After all the warning signs, even the school teacher, okay, let them go back to class. You know, there's nothing to see here. You know, this is the administration, the same administration that I almost guaranteed if it was black kids in this situation, they'd have got them up out of there. Like, man, you got to get them home. They're disturbed. You got to send them home. Let's continue on to the next clip.
Remember the timeline as laid out by prosecutors. On Monday, a teacher sees the student searching for ammunition on his phone. On Tuesday, a teacher sees a drawing of his depicting a handgun, someone who was shot, and the words, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me." The school calls in his parents, suggests immediate counseling. When they refuse, school administrators then return the student back to his class with his backpack.
Now, and like I said, once again, for my foreigners out there that watch my show, that listen to me on iHeartRadio or Spotify, you got to understand how this is working for us in this country. They didn't even check his backpack. Understand what I'm saying? He probably had the gun in the backpack the whole time. They never even checked it. If it was a young black man came in there with problems, he suspected of selling drugs, they would have been all over his backpack. They would have been searching his locker. They would have brought in the canine dogs. This is white supremacy on display. They looked at this white kid like, hey, he's disturbed, but just let him go back to class. No, they dropped the ball on this. White privilege. You know, this is white privilege 101. Let's get to the next clip.
The signals were all there. Anybody who reads this literature knows these are alarm bells going off.
He killed 4 students that afternoon.
The teacher in the classroom who found the cell phone search for ammunition. And then I'm not sure if it's the same teacher who found the drawing the next morning, the day of the murders. She was doing a great job.
Yeah, but it just doesn't seem like it went any further than that.
Somebody dropped the ball.
They didn't just drop the ball. It didn't go any further because, like I was sitting here telling you, they looked at him as a white kid. What harm can he do? This is white privilege 101, people. White supremacy and white privilege run hand in hand. People who benefit from white privilege don't necessarily have to be racist, though. Don't get that twisted. I'm not saying that people who benefit from white supremacy are racist. They're all not. But him being a white child at that school, he had the benefit of the doubt to the point where they didn't even search his book bag. He probably wanted to get caught with the gun just to scare people. And these people didn't even care. He probably had that. As his parents was in there talking to the principal about him, he's probably sitting out in the lobby with the gun in his backpack. In his backpack. Because from what they saying is, soon as the parents left and they didn't take him with him, that's when the shooting started. Now, the more disturbing thing about this is, I'm going to talk about later on when we get to the parents, because right now we're talking about the shooter and the whole system of white privilege and white supremacy in this country. It's bleeding all over this case.
Where does their responsibility end?
When you get caught with drugs at school, or it's even suspected you have them at school, they call out police dogs, they search your locker, they search your bag. Here it was believed someone might have a gun at the school and use it to hurt other students, and they didn't even bother to check his bag.
They can tell you, we are suspending your son right now. You have to remove him from the building. They didn't do that.
I understand their frustration at why they didn't do this, why they didn't do that. What they're not getting the understanding is, this is white privilege on display. White privilege, white supremacy 101. That's what this is, on display. This man had pictures of him killing somebody with bullets raining down on somebody. He didn't even put it on a separate piece of paper. He put it on a sheet that he turned in to the teacher. He wanted to get caught. He wanted to let them know that, hey, I'm dangerous. And they ignored it. Like, man, what can he do? He's a white kid. And 9 times out of 10, it's probably going to come out. It might not ever come out. Because right now they're focusing on the kids that got shot as being victims. Okay? But 9 times out of 10, the way he looks, because YouTube and social media has been blowing up off of geeked out pictures of him looking like a straight nerd. So more than likely, the people he actually shot, they might have been bullies. To be honest with you, they might have known that he was a creepy white supremacist kid, and they probably bullied him. Because when stuff like this happen with these people, sometimes they be bullied, and sometimes they hear the frustration and the hatred from their parents, and it carries over to them. So there's things that's going on here with this kid. You know, he could have been just flat out been bullied, or he could have been listening to his parents rant and rave about Donald Trump and decided, you know, he's going to be like his parents, because kids are sponges. Kids are sponges, people. I raised 2 of them. They watch you. We ignore them because we look at them as being kids. But what we don't understand is kids watch how you move and they try to mimic you. So this creepy kid that murdered these other kids, his parents are probably creeps. You know, his parents are probably kooky as hell. They probably gun-toting, wanting to, white supremacists wanting to kill somebody, but they just never acted on it. Him being a kid, he didn't know no better like them not to act on it. It's sad, man. This is some sad stuff. We're going to get into this first commercial break, and we're going to talk about these parents. We're going to talk about the parents of the shooter.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
I'm ready.
Camera's ready.
I'm ready. Welcome to Are You Scared talent shows. It's a new talent show that we put on TV for y'all to get used to because these people can't act, and so we're gonna show y'all what the real deal is when you get on front of the camera and what some garbage acting look like. I tell you, garbage acting. This is Are You Scared talent shows, okay? We're gonna show y'all some acts of some talents. $5,000. It really ain't $5,000. I just said $5,000 because $5,000 sound like some people want to come and join a talent show if it was paying $5,000. So I'm your host, Eric Jones. Are You Scared talent shows?
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
In my mind, and I believe, I've heard from people all over the country, and I don't even think this is a close call. How can we not hold those two people accountable as well as the shooter? We just must. Otherwise, what we're saying is that it's okay to bring a gun into your house and to give it to an individual that has a violent tendency and has given you real warning that he might use it to hurt somebody. We just can't let that stand.
Pay attention to what she just said. The parents, knowing that their child has violent tendencies. Now, think around people, especially in the black community, at all of these young men out here, young women out here who act just like King Von, running around here fighting, shooting up, fighting other people, shooting people over city blocks, the whole O Block thing up in Chicago and, Atlanta blowing up sometimes, California gangbangers. Florida is off the chain right now with gang members. Understand how this is finna play out, people. They testing the waters. Okay? Now, I'm not saying you're not supposed to be held accountable because you should. You should be held accountable for some drastic stuff like this that, kids do. You're their parent. And right now, these parents are going to be held accountable. And a few more white parents between now and from 20 years from now. But I'm almost willing to guarantee you 15 to 20 years from now, they're going to flip this around. They're going to flip this around, people. So you need to get your A game up when it comes to your kids, is what I'm trying to tell you. Because I got a daughter in the military, and my other daughter works. She's a nurse. She does home health care. My kids is not in the streets. Both of my kids waited till they became adults before they had kids. Both of my kids have seen their father work hard. Even though I was involved in gang life when I was a youngster, once I became a single father, I left that behind. So, to be honest with you, a lot of these young men and women out here, their parents are kind of responsible for a lot of their actions. That's a conversation a lot of us ain't ready to have. A lot of these youngsters don't know nothing about marijuana, but they smelt it in the house all their life, and they seen their father and their mother smoke it all their life. So guess what? I've seen people in the hood smoke weed with their kids. Literally. Sitting in the kitchen playing cards, the mama passed the blunt to her son. So I'm just trying to tell you people, man, it's coming. You got to rein some of this activity in, because a lot of times crime starts at home. We're not out here teaching our kids crime, but just by the circumstances that we're keeping them in and putting them in, they're learning it anyway. Oh, we get deep here on this show. For all of you foreigners out there and long-time listeners, people who listen to my show, you know, whatever platform you listen to me on, we get deep here on this show. I don't play no games with this. The kids, they mimic you. And sometimes when you sit back and say, I didn't teach him that. I didn't teach him to be out here murdering people. I didn't teach him to be out here gang banging. No, you might not have. But the boyfriend you dated, who was always running around throwing up Crip blood signs, the time you brought that pound of marijuana in the house and was cutting it up in front of him, bagging it up. How about the time that he got into a fight in school and you didn't do nothing about it? You laughed it off. Like, did you beat him up? Sometimes our behavior, even if we're not teaching them how to be criminals personally, our behavior around them pushes them into that type of activity. In our minds, we're not thinking they are getting pushed into that type of activity because we're looking at them as being kids. We think kids don't know nothing. I got a 9 or 10-year-old niece that knows more about computers than most grown-ups I know. I can hand her my lock phone. I can literally hand my niece my lock phone, and she did one thing. She blew her breath on my screen to let it mist up a little bit and saw where I was swiping, and she knew exactly how to unlock my phone. I looked at her like, what? She said, yeah, I can unlock your phone. I was like, no, you can't. I just handed it to her. She proved me wrong. And she's like 9 or 10. Stop playing games with your kids, people. Because I'm telling you, 10 to 15, I'm not even going to give it 20 years. There's going to be prosecutors in some of these major cities that are going to take a lesson from this, but they're not going to do it out of good intentions like this woman's doing. She's charging the parents of this young man because she really feels like they were responsible. They some crappy parents. They the ones brought the gun to the house, gave it to him, you know, instead of being careful with it. And the mother even texted him. The mother got the phone call from the school, and instead of responding back to the school, she texted her son and told her son, look, whatever you plan on doing, man, don't do it. They're texting me. I'm almost willing to guarantee you 15, I'm not even going to give it 20, 15 years from now, you're going to start seeing mugshots of young black women and young black males all in court because of their kids. It's finna be a problem.
What can you tell us about how the other students are doing? I saw there's a terrorism charge against the shooter as well.
There is, and that was charged because, you know, we charged the shooter with first-degree murder, 4 counts, and 7 counts of assault with intent to murder on the children that were just injured. But in those charges, it doesn't reflect the whole other part of this whole group of people who are also victims. And those are the people who were in the hallway, those students running for their lives and terrified. They will never be the same.
She mentioned something about terrorism. Okay, let me explain that to you. See, that's how they're going to get in on prosecuting more blacks behind their kids running around out here in the streets. Terrorism. You're terrorizing the community, and you as the parent knew it. Because I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be straight up with you, some of them ain't gonna be lying. Some of y'all know y'all kids gang members. Some of y'all know it. You see who he be hanging around. You see who the female brings to your house. They sit in their bedroom and kick it with them, or sit on your couch. You know these people. To you, they might not be bad kids, but you know they're gang members. In your eyes, they might be the little boy LeBron that sat at the kitchen table and ate. Look at the woman in New York who shot the other girl, point blank range. I know everybody heard about that case. Even foreigners who listen to my show probably done heard about the woman who got out the car, walked straight up to the other girl, shot in the head, point blank range, and calmly walked back. They caught her, by the way. She was in Florida hiding out. Walked calmly back to her car and drove off. This woman sat at the table of the woman she killed's mother, slept at this woman's house. That execution style murder was almost gang-like. You see, that's something the police didn't even talk about when they talked about how she blatantly killed this girl. They didn't mention nothing about it. But I guarantee you, police investigators know what I'm talking about. That seemed like a gang hit. And then the gang probably hid her out in Florida, because these gangs have ties all over the country. So in my mind, I'm saying to myself, if that was a gang hit in New York, and she sat at the table of this woman and her mother and slept at this woman in his mother's house, they already knew that they was involved in some stuff. They already knew. My mother knew. When I was running around screaming I was Vice Lord, my mother knew. When I had a gang of dudes following me, when I became a gang leader, my mother knew. The difference is, my mother would always tell me though, son, why them dudes be all at your house all the time? Why don't you tell them to take their butt somewhere else? That's one thing my mother did. My mother didn't just smile and let it go. No. She knew, but at the same time, whenever she came to my house and visit me, and some of my partners was there drinking and you know, kicking and stuff, she would pull me to the side and tell me, like, when she go to her car and she finna leave, she'd say, son, come here. You need to get that trash out your house. Ain't none of them dudes no good. She would flat up tell me just like that. Some parents ain't even doing that. They know, they ain't saying nothing. They're not saying nothing. Because some of them is involved in certain activities themselves. This is gonna backfire. I hope these people do get prosecuted though. I feel they should. But I'm here to tell you, 10, 15 years from now, you're gonna start seeing more and more cases of minorities being prosecuted like this than whites. I'm almost willing to guarantee it. Let's get back to the next clip.
But I do know that there was a concern for the teachers in the classroom when they saw both of those things and brought it to administrative level, and parents were involved. But I do want to stress that in all of these players, the only two people who knew both that those two things occurred, the drawings, the very terrifying drawings that were clearly a threat of violence, and the ammunition search, the only two people who knew that and the accessibility of a weapon were Mr. and Mrs. Crumbly, mom and dad.
Everything I'm laying out to you, she's laying out to you about mom and dad of this kid. that shot up this school. Everything I just explained to you about how the only people that knew, the school knew about the search for the bullets. The school knew that part and the disturbing pictures. But the only people that can put it together was the parents. Because the school told the parents about the pictures. The school told the parents about the crazy behavior. And then they turn around and get them a gun for Christmas. You know, let me give you a small example of how this is going to work in the black community. Say your son, because I've seen kids young as 17, 16 smoke weed with their parents. It's sad. Say your son or your daughter's 15, 16, 17 years old, they still in high school, they're in the last year or two. I've seen parents buddy up with their kids, almost like their kids as their friends in the hood, and smoke blunts with them, drink with them. So your child goes to school and sell a couple of dime bags of weed. But the teachers, before he get caught with this weed, the teachers call you and say, you know, we think your son has a drug problem because he comes to school smelling like marijuana, and we kind of suspect he's selling drugs in our school. And you come up there raising hell, y'all just racist, y'all against my child. Okay, then the evidence come out that he gets caught with weed, you got marijuana in your system, and you got weed in your house. They're going to prosecute you and put 2 and 2 together and say, you know, you already knew that this shit was going on. So now we're going to take you down with him. You know, we're going to hold you responsible, ultimately. It's coming. I just used the marijuana as a small scale because I could have used something like the whole gang banging thing. You know, your son just shot somebody. You know, and we looked at your Facebook post and you saying that you worried about your son. He's out here gang banging and but you didn't tell the authorities. You didn't say nothing. You didn't say nothing to him. They're going to start holding parents accountable. But like I said, it's going to backfire. And it's going to come straight at us. Let's get into this next clip.
You've seen the drawings.
I have.
And they target individuals. They make it explicit what the intent was.
I mean, I stated out exactly what it said. It said blood everywhere. There's a picture of a gun. There's a picture of a person sketched holding a gun up in the air. There's a statement, the world will be dead. There's drawings of bullets. That you cannot read and look at that drawing without being concerned. And it wasn't just a drawing. It was a worksheet that was passed out at the beginning of the class. And instead of completing the worksheet, those statements and drawings were on the review worksheet.
Yes, people, this kid was disturbed. And I was looking at the mug shots. Look at the mug shot up here. These are the parents. I was looking at the mug shot of these people. They look like they disturbed too. They look like they're the type of white people who feel like the whole country is going to shit and whites are losing control of the country. We got to take this country back. Take this country back. That's the type of people they look like. You know. And it further goes into what I always talk about on my show about how ever since the Civil War, they have been teaching their kids, and their kids have been teaching their kids how to manipulate the system, because the system is for them. You know, I hope y'all learned something from today, man. I love you all. Keep the family of these people that got killed in your prayers. Keep everybody in your prayers, man. And we got to do better, because it's coming. Get a hold of your kids early. Let them know, man, look, you finna drag me into some stuff now. This is the Daily Read, and I'm out.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Business.